My best friend posted a photo, and in the reflection, I saw my husband. Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I never thought I'd be writing this. Even now, sitting here with my laptop open and my hands shaking, I can barely believe the words that are about to pour out of me. But I need to tell someone. I need to make sense of what happened, because if I don't, I think I might lose my mind completely. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that 3 weeks ago, I had everything. A husband I loved, a best friend I trusted more than anyone in the world, a life that felt solid, predictable, safe. Today, I have none of those things. And it all came crashing down because of a single photograph. Let me start at the beginning. Sarah and I met when we were 14. Middle school, that awkward age when everyone's trying to figure out who they are, and friendship feels like the most important thing in the universe. We bonded over stupid things at first, a shared hatred of our math teacher, an obsession with the same boy band, the fact that we both brought terrible lunches from home. But it grew into something deeper. By high school, we were inseparable. We knew each other's secrets, finished each other's sentences, defended each other against anyone who dared to say a bad word. She was there when my parents divorced. I was there when her mom got sick. We went to different colleges but talked every single day. When I met David during my junior year, Sarah was the first person I told. When he proposed 3 years later, she cried harder than I did. She was my maid of honor. She gave a speech at our wedding that made everyone laugh and cry at the same time. She told a story about how I'd called her at 2 a.m. after my first date with David, gushing about how I'd found the one, and she said she knew right then that we'd end up here, standing in front of everyone, making it official. I believed her. I believed in her. David and I built a life together. Nothing fancy, nothing extraordinary, but it was ours. A small house with a backyard, 2 cats, Sunday morning pancakes, inside jokes that made us laugh until our stomachs hurt. He worked in finance, long hours sometimes, but he always made time for us. Date nights every Friday, morning coffee in bed on weekends. We had our routines, our rhythms. We fit. Sarah was woven into our lives too. She came over for dinner at least twice a month. She was there for holidays, birthdays, random Tuesday nights, when one of us needed company. David liked her. They got along well, joked around, but it never felt like anything more than normal friendship. She was my person, and he respected that. He'd sometimes roll his eyes affectionately when Sarah and I would disappear into the kitchen for an hour, talking and laughing while he watched TV. "You two and your marathon conversations," he'd say, smiling. It felt perfect. Looking back now, I wonder when it started. I torture myself trying to pinpoint the exact moment when everything I believed in became a lie. Was it a year ago? 6 months? Longer? How long was I walking around, smiling and trusting, while the 2 people I loved most in the world were lying to my face? The signs were there. God, the signs were there, and I missed every single one. About 6 months ago, David started working later. Not every night, but more often. "Big project," he'd say. "You know how it is?" I did know. His job was demanding. I never questioned it. He'd come home tired, kiss my forehead, ask about my day. Everything seemed normal. Sarah started being less available too. We used to text constantly throughout the day, random thoughts, funny memes, complaints about work. But the texts became fewer. She'd take hours to respond, sometimes a whole day. When I'd ask if everything was okay, she'd say she was swamped, stressed, dealing with stuff. I gave her space. That's what good friends do, right? They don't suffocate each other, they trust. There were moments, though, small moments that my brain registered but didn't process. Like the time the 3 of us went out for dinner, and I came back from the bathroom to find them mid-conversation that stopped abruptly when they saw me. They both smiled, picked up their drinks, asked what I wanted for dessert. It felt slightly off, but I brushed it away. Or the time I mentioned planning a girls' weekend with Sarah, and she seemed weirdly hesitant, said she'd have to check her schedule, never brought it up again. David's phone habits changed too. He'd always been casual about it, leaving it on the counter, face up, not caring if I glanced at it. But gradually, he started keeping it face down, taking it with him to the bathroom, tilting the screen away when a notification came through. When I asked once, jokingly, if he was hiding something, he laughed it off. Just work stuff, boring contracts and emails. Trust me, you don't want to see it. I trusted him. That was my mistake. About a month ago, Sarah invited us over for a housewarming party. She'd just moved into a new apartment, and she was excited to show it off. David said he had to work late, couldn't make it. I was disappointed but went anyway. It was a good night music, wine, laughter, friends I hadn't seen in a while. Sarah seemed happy, radiant even. At one point, I hugged her and told her I was proud of her. She hugged me back tight, and for a second, I thought I felt her tense up, almost pull away. But then she relaxed and said she loved me. When I got home that night, David was already in bed, asleep. His shirt was draped over the chair, a blue button-down I'd bought him for his birthday. The next morning, I mentioned the party, said it was too bad he'd missed it. He nodded, distracted, scrolling through his phone. Yeah, work was brutal, he said. Didn't get out until almost 11. I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? Then came the photograph. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary, unremarkable. I was at work, scrolling through Instagram during my lunch break, zoning out while I ate a salad at my desk. Sarah had posted a photo an hour earlier. It was a simple shot, her sitting in a cafe, holding a latte, smiling at the camera. The caption was something generic. Needed this today. 43 likes. A handful of comments from mutual friends. Nothing special. But something made me look closer. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was the universe finally forcing me to see what I'd been blind to for months. I zoomed in on the photo, taking in the details. The cafe looked familiar, but I couldn't place it. Sarah's hair was different. She'd gotten bangs since I'd last seen her. She looked beautiful, happy. And then I saw it. Behind her, there was a window, and in the window's reflection, barely visible, but unmistakable once you noticed it, was a figure. A man. Sitting at a table, partially obscured by the angle, but clear enough. Dark hair, broad shoulders, a blue shirt, a blue button-down shirt. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. I stared at the screen, my salad forgotten, my entire world narrowing to that tiny reflected image. I zoomed in further, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped my phone. The resolution was grainy, pixelated, but I could make out enough. The shape of his jaw, the way he held his coffee cup, the watch on his left wrist, the watch I'd given him for our anniversary. It was David, my husband, in a cafe, with my best friend, on a Tuesday morning when he was supposed to be at work. I don't remember breathing for the next few minutes. I just stared, zoomed in, zoomed out, stared again, looked at Sarah's face, then at the reflection, then back at her face. She was smiling, genuinely smiling, and in the background, my husband sat there, in the same cafe, at the same time. The rational part of my brain tried to kick in. Coincidence, it whispered. Maybe they ran into each other. Maybe he was meeting a client nearby and stopped for coffee. Maybe Sarah didn't even know he was there. But the rational part was drowning under a wave of something else. Something cold and nauseating and terrifying. Because deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew. I knew this wasn't a coincidence. I knew that the late nights, the distant texts, the stopped conversations, the face-down phone, it all suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. I sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. My coworker walked by, asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, managed some kind of smile, waited until she was gone. Then I looked at the photo again. This time, I noticed more. The way Sarah's smile reached her eyes. The angle of the photo it looked like a selfie, but the distance suggested someone else had taken it. Maybe the barista? Or maybe someone at her table. Maybe David had taken it, and she'd cropped him out before posting. The thought made me physically sick. I left work early. Told my boss I had a migraine, which wasn't entirely a lie. My head was pounding, my vision blurring at the edges. I drove home in a daze, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I kept replaying every interaction from the past 6 months. Every time Sarah had canceled plans. Every time David had worked late. Every time they'd been in the same room, and I'd felt that weird energy I couldn't name. How could I have been so stupid? When I got home, David wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. It was only 2 in the afternoon. I stood in the living room, surrounded by our life photos on the walls, his shoes by the door, the blanket we'd picked out together draped over the couch, and felt like a stranger in my own house. I pulled out my phone again, looked at the photo for the 100th time, tried to find another explanation, any explanation that didn't involve betrayal, but there wasn't one. There was just the truth, staring back at me in pixels and reflections. I thought about calling Sarah, confronting her right then and there. But what would I say? "Hey, I noticed my husband in the background of your coffee shop selfie." It sounded insane, paranoid. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. Except I wasn't. I went through David's things. I'd never done it before, never felt the need to. But now I opened drawers, checked coat pockets, looked through his desk. I found receipts, so many receipts. Coffee shops, restaurants, a hotel. A hotel. The date on the receipt was from 2 months ago, a Thursday night when he'd said he was at a conference in the city. He'd texted me that night, said he loved me, said he'd see me tomorrow. I sat on the floor, surrounded by evidence I didn't want to see, and cried. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that wouldn't stop. I felt like an idiot, like the punchline to a joke I hadn't realized I was part of. When David came home that evening, I was sitting on the couch, the photo pulled up on my phone. I don't think I'd moved in hours. He walked in, set down his bag, smiled at me. "Hey babe, you're home early, feeling okay?" I didn't answer, just held up my phone, showed him the screen. His face changed. It was subtle, barely there, but I caught it. A flicker of something panic, guilt, calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by confusion. "What am I looking at?" "Sarah's Instagram, posted this morning. Look at the window behind her." He stepped closer, squinted at the screen. I watched his face carefully, searching for any crack in the facade. "Okay," he said slowly. "It's Sarah having coffee. I don't—" "The reflection, David. In the window. That's you." Silence. He stared at the phone, then at me. I don't think that's me." "It is. That's your shirt, your watch, your coffee cup. That's you." "Okay, even if it is, so what? Maybe I stopped for coffee near her work. Is that a crime now?" The calm in his voice was worse than yelling would have been. "You were supposed to be at work. You told me you had meetings all morning." "I did. I grabbed coffee before, ran into Sarah. We chatted for 5 minutes. Why are you making this into something it's not?" "Because you're lying." My voice cracked. "You're lying, and I can see it, and I just need you to stop." He ran a hand through his hair, sighed like I was being unreasonable. "I'm not lying. You're upset about nothing. This is paranoid, honestly." I found receipts. Hotels, David, restaurants. Times when you said you were working late. Another flicker. Longer this time. He looked away, jaw clenching. "You went through my stuff?" "Don't turn this around on me. Just tell me the truth." "The truth is you're acting crazy right now. So I grabbed coffee near Sarah's work. So I had a few work dinners I didn't mention, because I didn't think they were important. That doesn't mean anything." "Then why did you lie? Why did you say you were at work when you were having coffee with my best friend? Why does Sarah's calendar suddenly never line up with mine? Why do you both act weird when we're all together?" He stared at me, and for a moment, I thought he might actually tell me, might actually admit it. Instead, he shook his head. I don't have to defend myself against your paranoia. I've been nothing but faithful to you, and this is what I get? Accusations because of a blurry photo? I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted so badly to believe him, but I couldn't, not anymore. Get out. What? Get out. I need you to leave, now. He looked shocked, hurt even. Are you serious right now? I'm completely serious. I can't look at you right now. I can't be in the same room as you. Just go. He stood there for a long moment, then grabbed his bag and walked out. The door closed behind him, and I was alone. I called Sarah. She answered on the third ring, sounding cheerful. Hey, what's up? I need to ask you something. Okay, shoot. Were you with David this morning? A pause. Too long. What? No. Why would you? Don't lie to me. I saw the photo. I saw him in the reflection. Another pause. Then quietly. It's not what you think. And there it was. The confirmation I didn't want. My best friend. The person I'd trusted with everything, admitting in 4 words that I'd been right. What is it then? My voice was steady, cold. What exactly am I thinking wrong? We ran into each other. Had coffee. That's it. How long? How long what? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? Silence. Long, damning silence. Sarah, how long? I'm sorry. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen. It just did. We tried to stop. We really did. But I hung up. I didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to hear about how it just happened, how they tried to stop. I didn't want to hear any of it. I sat there in the silence of my house and felt everything inside me shatter. The next few days were a blur. David texted, called, showed up at the house. I didn't answer, didn't open the door. Sarah tried too. Long messages about how sorry she was, how it was never supposed to hurt me, how she'd been confused and made terrible choices. I deleted them without reading past the first few lines. Friends started asking questions. They'd noticed the absence of posts, the lack of responses. I told a few close ones what happened, and the news spread. Some people took my side immediately. Others seemed uncomfortable, like they didn't know who to believe. A few mutual friends stopped talking to me altogether, probably because Sarah got to them first with her version of events. I learned more than I wanted to know. Through mutual friends, through careless social media posts I shouldn't have looked at, but did anyway. They'd been seeing each other for 8 months. 8 months. Almost a year of lies. Of looking me in the eye and pretending. Of holidays together, dinners, conversations where they both knew what they were doing and did it anyway. The worst part? They'd been careful, so careful. This photo was the only slip-up, the only piece of evidence that made it into public view. Everything else had been hidden, compartmentalized, kept in the shadows. If Sarah had taken that photo from a different angle, or if I'd scrolled past it without looking close, I might still be living in ignorance. I don't know if that would have been better or worse. David finally admitted it, 3 weeks after the photo. He showed up at the house when I was home, knocked until I answered. He looked terrible, exhausted, unshaven, miserable. He said he was sorry, said it was the biggest mistake of his life, said he loved me, had always loved me, got confused, got weak. He said Sarah had pursued him, that he'd said no at first, that it spiraled out of control. I asked him to leave. He begged, literally begged, got on his knees in our doorway and begged me to forgive him, to give him another chance, to not throw away everything we'd built. I looked down at him and felt nothing. No anger anymore, no sadness, just empty. You don't get to do this, I said quietly. You don't get to destroy everything and then ask me to fix it. You made your choice. 8 months of choices. Now I'm making mine. He left. I haven't seen him since. Sarah tried too. She showed up at my work, cornered me in the parking lot. She cried, said she hated herself, said she'd been jealous of what David and I had. Said she'd been lonely and made terrible decisions. She said she'd end it, cut all contact with him, do whatever it took to earn back my trust. I looked at her, this person I'd known for over 20 years, this person who'd been in every major moment of my life, and realized I didn't know her at all. The Sarah I'd loved wouldn't have done this. This person standing in front of me, crying and begging, was a stranger. I don't want you to earn back my trust, I told her. I want you out of my life, permanently. She looked shattered. Please, please don't do this. We can fix this. I'll do anything. There's nothing to fix. It's over. We're over. Go live your life with my husband if that's what you want, or don't. I don't care. But leave me alone. I walked away. She didn't follow. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I filed for divorce, told my family, who were horrified and supportive in equal measure, told my remaining friends, who rallied around me in ways I didn't expect. I cried a lot, slept terribly, lost weight, went through the motions of work and life like a zombie. But slowly, very slowly, I started to feel something other than pain. I started to feel angry. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, determined kind. The kind that makes you realize you deserve better. That makes you look at what happened and decide you're not going to let it define you. I unfollowed Sarah on everything, blocked her number, cut every digital tie. I heard through mutual friends that she and David didn't last. Apparently guilt and shame aren't great foundations for a relationship. She moved to a different city. He moved in with a coworker. I didn't ask for details, didn't care. I stayed in our house. Changed the locks, repainted the bedroom, got rid of anything that reminded me of him. Made it mine. Started therapy. Started going to yoga. Started saying yes to invitations I would have declined before. Reconnected with old friends I'd drifted from. Built a new life, piece by piece. 3 months later, I went on a date. Nothing serious, just coffee with a guy from a dating app. It was fine, unremarkable. But sitting there, talking to someone new, I realized I was laughing. Actually laughing. And it felt good. I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely healed. I'm not. There are still days when the betrayal hits me out of nowhere, when I think about Sarah's face at my wedding, or David's promises on our anniversary, and I feel sick. There are still moments when I wonder if I'll ever be able to trust anyone again, ever be able to open my heart without fear. But I'm here, I'm surviving, and some days I'm even thriving. I look at that photo sometimes, the one that changed everything. Sarah deleted it eventually, probably once she realized what I'd seen, but I'd screenshot it. I keep it in a folder on my phone, hidden away. I'm not sure why. Maybe as a reminder. Maybe as proof that I'm not crazy, that it really happened. Maybe just because some part of me needs to hold on to it. What I learned from all of this is that you can't really know anyone. Not completely. You can love someone with your whole heart, trust them with your life, build your entire world around them, and still discover they're capable of betraying you in ways you never imagined. It's a horrible lesson, but it's also a freeing one. Because once you accept that people can disappoint you, you also accept that you can survive it, that you're stronger than you think. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever have that kind of trust again, that kind of certainty. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But what I do know is this. I chose myself. When everything fell apart, when I had to decide between clinging to the wreckage of what I thought I had or letting it go and rebuilding, I chose me. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. If you're reading this and you're going through something similar, I want you to know. It gets better, not quickly, not easily. But it does. You'll have days where you can barely get out of bed. You'll have days where you're so angry you can't see straight. You'll have days where you miss them so much it physically hurts. But you'll also have days where you laugh, where you feel hopeful, where you realize that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of your story, just the end of a chapter, and you get to write the next one. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I survived. I'm still here, still breathing, still moving forward, and that's enough.